Today's episode of the Wonkcast brought to you by Warren's Music, crafter of fine guitars, 5003 51st Avenue, Wetaskiwin, open Tuesday to Saturday. You can reach them at 780-352-0044. That's 780-352-0044. Warren's Music. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Wonkcast. My name is Justin Littlechild, here alongside my co-host Dale Atchison. How are you doing today, Dale?
I'm doing amazing, my friend. How are you?
I am excellent. First episode in our swanky downtown studios here in Wetaskiwin. It's great to be here. Just to let you guys know, a lot of people that are listening to this, this is an arts podcast. We're going to be talking to a lot of arts members in the community, musicians, people who perform music, artists, people who create art of any kind of value. We want to kind of express some awareness on our community and shine a little bit of light here. So this is actually the brainchild of Dale, and I want to just give a little shout out to Dale for having me on board here and putting this little thing together. So we're going to have guests come on every week, and this week we're just going to start by talking to my co-host here, the better half. So Dale.
Yes, sir.
Brainchild. Now, how'd you come up with this fantastic idea for this podcast?
Well,
I mean, you're very involved in the music community, and you've been for some time with your band Dead End Drive and throughout the whole years. Is this something you just kind of wanted to do to kind of show exposure on fellow musicians and everybody else?
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Being a musician myself, like you said, there needs to be more exposure for us. Not just musicians, but artists as well. Even some of the local small businesses around here that help promote arts and music, such as Warren's Music. Myself, we have our Delcon Visual Arts. Hey, you got to throw a plug in there, right?
Absolutely.
And what I want to do is to help, even in just a small way, with getting everybody's faces and voices out there. In future podcasts, I'm looking at doing a video. So right now, we're just going to stick to the basics with just the audio. And we hope to bring in some prominent people, maybe not so prominent, not that that's a bad thing. Artists and musicians here, and we'll get their take on things and their ideas, and maybe they'll have better examples of how we can get everybody's name and word and work out there.
Yeah, and that's great. And I think it's great being in a small community. Like, if we have any listeners from outside of town, we are located about half an hour outside of Edmonton, Canada, in a small community called Wetaskiwin. We've got about 12,000 people here, about 13,000 people. So, and actually a lot of talented musicians here, which is one of the greatest reasons I think for this Wonkcast is we have so many people to showcase. Just because there's, I don't think a year has gone by that I haven't seen any local musician that I haven't really been impressed with. Just because, everybody works so hard and puts so much time into their music just because it's a smaller town and we don't have what's readily available to us like we do in the bigger cities. And that makes it great, and it has that small community feel too where everybody kind of, gets behind each other and supports everybody and makes them feel right at home. So that's fantastic. We're going to jump into a really generic kind of interview question here. How'd you get started?
Started in music?
Yeah, started in music, started in arts. Your first inkling of, I want to do that.
Wow, that's a really good question. But I was about 14, and I got to give full credit to my brother-in-law, Bill Cormack. He used to come to our house back when we lived in BC, and he was a musician, and he would sit there and sing and strum, and that just... my ears perked up as soon as I heard that, and I thought, yeah, I want to do that. And just over the years, I slowly got at it, and just everything just kind of fell in and out of place at times.
As it usually does in the music industry.
Yeah, for sure. And then I've been in a few bands, nothing spectacular. I hate to say that, but...
but I love your band Dead End Drive. I mean, I always love coming out and watching you guys, just because you play all the classic hits that I was probably conceived to and grew up on, and not the roller disco type stuff, but you play a lot of the classic rock, and that gets everybody out. I think I've seen some of my teachers out enjoying a couple of times there.
Yeah.
So that's what's fun. It brings everybody together, through music, which is amazing.
Well, and it's such a wide variety of ages too. I mean, everything from little kids up to we played at the Legion for January New Year's, and there was some, let's say, older folks there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm old too, but I mean, they're older than me, and they were up having a great time. So that's, like you said, that's the thing about music. It brings everybody together.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't matter what age. Like you said, you could be 5 years old and you can enjoy it just as much as someone who's 65 or,
exactly. Yeah.
Up. It's pretty eclectic the way it spreads around. So a lot of people start, when they're kind of younger. Like you said, you were interested in about 14. What age did you know that you actually really, really wanted to do this? Like the age you first picked up that guitar and said, "All right, I'm going to learn some chords. I'm gonna play some stuff, and I'm gonna make my fingers bleed."
Well, I started a little bit later in life. It was about 16, I guess. When I moved from the country life to the city life, I got in with some really good friends, and a couple of them were musicians, and I just thought, man, they're doing it, why can't I? And they were more than happy to help me and teach me. And
how is that transition going from country life to city life and not playing country music? Because I know we're in Alberta, and it's a stereotype that usually every musician comes out of the country life and has to do country music. What was your kind of what made you say, you know what, I kind of want to just play whatever and play some rock and roll? And did you have any particular influences that you listened to when you were younger that made you want to kind of go after that kind of style?
Definitely. I grew up with my parents listening to polka music. Country music, like the old-time country music, what I consider the real country music. Ned Landry, Don Messer, Wilf Carter, Johnny
really
Cash.
dated yourself right
yeah,
there.
Definitely. And then all of a sudden one day, my sister was watching this show on TV, and a lot of you, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but some of you might remember, it was a little guy down in Tennessee. His name was Elvis Presley.
Yes.
He was wearing a black suit on a stage. He had some musicians, and it was broadcast, and she turned that on, and it wasn't him in particular, but it was the music style, and I thought, that's cool. Yeah. That's what I want to do, and it's kind of just expanded from there. My first influence, though, probably to play the guitar, I'm going to give a big shout out to Randy Bachman from Bachman Turner Overdrive.
Yes, fantastic musician.
I've always wanted to emulate his style. And then, as you get older, there's other musicians along the way, and you just kind of take a little here, take a little there, and hopefully create your own style. And
he's still out there, Randy Bachman.
Yes.
I mean, he's still up there, gray hair and leather jacket, and you go see him, and he's playing like he's 25 again, and it's so cool to see, and you feed off that energy. Which I thought was fantastic. And again, speaking on Elvis, just celebrated a birthday actually a couple days ago. Would have been his I think 85th.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong.
He'd be an old fella now for sure.
He would, and I think there's not any kind of musician you could talk to that hasn't been influenced by Elvis Presley. I mean, from any art form. I mean, there's heavy metal bands that say they were influenced by Elvis Presley, because at that time that was such a different thing to come out. I mean, I wasn't alive back then, but just from reading about it, and it was such a different, kind of shocking thing to see that nobody kind of saw that thing, back in those days with the hip shaking and
he paid his dues, that's for sure.
And the rock and roll, he did, and he was so eclectic. He did country, he did gospel, he did rock and roll, he did blues, he did everything. I think he'll stand the test of time for sure as one of the artists to definitely survive beyond his age down the road.
His name will never die, I don't think. And then you got other musicians like Prince and David Bowie, other guys like that have recently passed on, sad to say, but we all got to go sometime.
That's right.
But as far as other influences, there's just a plethora of them. I haven't got enough time here to name them all, but I'll throw out Randy Rhoads, one of my all-time favorite, probably my all-time
Aussie
favorite
guitarist.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing as well. Speaking of guitarists, because you were talking about Randy Bachman and Randy Rhoads, do you have a preferred instrument? Like, if you're playing a guitar, is there a guitar you have to play? Is there a guitar you won't play on stage?
Definitely. I'm not a huge fan of Fenders.
Yep.
It's a personal thing. It's the feel.
For sure.
But as far as my preference, it's a Les Paul style. Now, whether that's an actual Gibson or another brand that has that style, as long as it feels good, I don't care how it looks really, but it's got to feel good and it's got to sound good.
You guys play for a long time. I mean, you guys are playing probably 3 sets in a night sometimes.
Always.
So you got to you have to definitely have something comfortable that you're going to want to, play all night, and that you're not going to, after 4 songs be like, well, this wasn't the best idea.
Well, that's got a lot to do with the weight of the guitar itself, too. So you got to, I'm getting older. My back's getting not as strong as it used to be. And by the end of the night comes, my back's feeling it,
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to, I forget which local musician I was talking to about that. I think his, I'm not sure of his name, but he was talking about getting older and having to play these sets in bars and at dances and stuff and for Christmas parties, when you're playing till 1:30. 2 in the morning. That's got to be difficult sometimes. Have you ever wanted to say, let's just do 1 set tonight, guys?
There's, different factors, how you're feeling that day, how much sleep you got the night before.
Yep.
I'll admit that there's times, and man, I'd really like to get this night over with, but...
Yeah, because you guys have a very high energy show, too. I mean, you're not just standing up there, all sitting on stools and... you guys are moving
definitely
around. You're walking through the crowd. You're wearing the wireless packs, and you're walking through the venue, which I thought is absolutely cool. And I haven't seen any other local band do that. So that was always something I like seeing when I go see you guys. Have you for inspirations and everything? Who were your parents listening to? Did you get a lot of you said you were raised on a lot of kind of country music, classic country music.
Yeah.
Now, was that from your taste, or was that from your parents kind of listening to it around the house?
Oh, that was definitely my parents.
Yeah, I was raised on a lot of, CCR and kind of Warren Zevon, T-Rex kind of stuff. And I always loved that, you can keep that music going through generation on generation. And... Have you passed on any music to your kids from when you were raised on? That they might not be happy about, or that they might be happy about?
I think I bombarded them with my 80s music. I just loved it.
Yeah.
And as you know as well as I do, Courtney actually sang for our band for about a year, a little bit over a year. And she grew up on that stuff, so it didn't take her long to transition into learning the music. And like I said, I bombarded them with that music, and they know the songs. Something comes up, I know that one.
Yeah.
So, and my parents weren't, I don't want to say they were the same, but I just listened to whatever was playing at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And it wasn't my first choice, but I never complain about music. I like so many different forms of music that...
I have such a bipolar playlist. If people are ever traveling with me and they're brave enough to give me the auxiliary cord, there's everything from Frank Sinatra to Slipknot on there to just kind of, whatever strikes the mood. I think if you're going to like music, you should like all kinds of music. And if you only particularly... form around one genre of music, I don't really think you're truly a music fan. That's my opinion.
I'm going to agree with you on that one. Yeah,
because I think you have to listen to everything just to get a sense of what's out there and kind of different songwriting styles, different playing styles, and so many artists can emulate 4 or 5 artists at once and just put it together and have something that was built off of 3 or 4 people.
And you'll also notice the older you get too, the more your music tastes are going to change. Something you did like, you're going to end up saying, "Oh, wow, I actually listened to that."
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
That's happened to me a few times, I think.
Yeah.
So now, were you self-taught? Did you take lessons playing guitar? Because I've watched you play, and you're phenomenal.
No, thank you.
Yeah, just one of my favorite to watch. Did you learn by ear, by sounds? Can you
I
hear something
I play
on the
by ear
radio
mostly. Yeah. I never really had formal music instruction. I sat there and I watched people, and I tried to do what they did. And I've had the odd friend come up and say, "Well, try this and try that." But I mean, other than that, I'm pretty much self-taught. As far as reading music goes, you might as well just throw an Asian language in front of me because I can't read music.
Yes, actually, that's interesting that you were saying that, or you say that, because Gene Simmons actually cannot read music either.
That's right.
He said in an interview he cannot read sheet music. He's never been able to read sheet music, and me neither. Like same, it's a big foreign language to me. I mean, I learned by the placements, I guess you could say.
And I spend a lot of time practicing.
Yeah.
Like to learn a song, I'll spend easily anywhere from an hour, depending on the song, and my parts in the song. It could be an hour to a week, depending on the song. I mean, it usually doesn't take a week.
Yeah, depending on schedules and stuff. And
how much
I
time
always
I have.
found it amazing when I can watch a musician put sheet music in front of them, sit there and look at it, and just start playing.
Yeah, I kind of envy those guys a little bit, but a lot can be lost in that because it looks so mechanical.
Yeah.
It sounds so mechanical. I mean, there's got to be some feel to it.
Yes.
And that's where I think my playing is a little different than some others because I do actually feel the music. I don't read it off a sheet.
Put time into it and don't just, show
and
up
I like
and get out of the Uber and get on stage.
Yeah, I like the little nuances that the artists throw in there, and I try to emulate that as best I can. I mean, you'll never get the same, and they never play it the same twice anyway. So.
That's right. That's very true. So you guys play a lot of classic cover songs. Do you guys play some originals too? Have you wrote some originals? And what would be your songwriting process behind that? Or if you've written originals kind of before you were in bands and everything, what would be your whole process for kind of sitting down and saying, all right, I'm going to write a song today? Do you sit down with the guitar, or can you just write the lyrics and then you have to do the music, at a later date?
I am far from a lyricist. It's got to come from the riff, and I rely on others to come up with the lyrics.
But I think that's how a lot of people kind of, by the sound, they'll hear something and then the words will kind of come out, which is great too. But I'm always been fascinated by the guys that can sit there and pick up an acoustic, start strumming, and they just start ad-libbing.
Yeah.
And they just come up with a whole song, in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever put together a song in 5 or 10 minutes, but the whole process, I sit down, sometimes it'll just come out of the blue. Other times you really got to think about it.
Yep.
And don't be afraid to take anybody else's input on something. Well, try this or try that, or different chording pattern, or even a different tempo.
Second ear is always the best.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Because you're always going to miss something. Because you're going to be, I know with a lot of people I know, they'll focus on one part specifically. They can focus on only the first verse, and then they can focus on the second verse, and they might not even write the chorus until later, completely on, or the bridge or whatever, and they just have to get that one part perfect.
And I just find, too, that if you're not willing to listen to other people, you're not going to learn.
Yeah.
You're not going to expand, right? So
no, because it has to be a creative process. It has to be involving kind of everybody. And I know there's a lot of songwriters that refuse to write with anybody, and they'll only write with themselves. But I love the guys that, sit in a room with 6 or 7 people. And, even seeing the one person get excited that they have a line on the song or 2 words, that's my line.
And that's an actual perfect segue right now, because you could go over to the Manluck Theater for our open mic nights,
yes,
which is actually happening tonight.
Second Saturday, I believe.
There's so many of us, yourself included, that you can sit there and, pluck away at something, and somebody else pick up another instrument, and then somebody else would be on the drums and the bass or whatever, and then somebody will just get up, and it doesn't happen very often this way, but someone will come up and just throw in some bullshit lyrics and fake something, right? Just whatever. That's part of the process. That's
what the open mic is for. Is totally for experimenting. And what I love about it too is it's in such an intimate venue, and the Manluck Theatre is actually very historic too. I think it was the old Calgary Power.
Yes, that's one of the names it's had. Yep, for sure. It's the oldest. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the oldest working theater in Alberta.
That's right, oldest performance art theater. Yeah. And it's just it used to be they used to do the open mic in the lobby, but now I love the fact to do it in the theater on the stage,
on the Kimto stage. Yeah,
where you can sit in the theater seats and watch people. You bring your buddies down, and they have a liquor license there too.
Yeah. You come drink some beers.
Yeah, come drink some beers.
Or whatever. There's 140 seats there. You can...
write a song about your ex.
Or whatever you like, for sure.
And sometimes they have special guests that just pop by there randomly. I think it was a couple weeks back. Paul Green was actually
Paul
there.
Green, yeah, he was there.
Paul Green is he's from Wetaskiwin. He's an actor now in Hollywood. And he just popped by randomly one night and played some songs, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. I never actually got the chance to talk to him, but you did. And I don't know him personally, and he sounded good from what I could hear.
Oh, yeah, he was great, yeah. I envy his hair. And his abs.
What, because he's got some?
Yeah, because he has hair, that's why, yeah. And because I want to wear a V-neck, but I can't. So.
There you go.
Yeah. So getting back on some questions here. I love this question when people ask this, because I always love to hear different musicians' inputs on this. What has been your favorite place to perform and your absolutely worst place to perform? You won't ever walk in anymore. It could have been from a bad experience, or you just don't want to go in.
Well, my most favorite place that I ever played was actually I went back to my high school, and we did a Valentine's Day dance, and this was with my first band, and the reception we got after we were finished was incredible. I mean, we're just starting out, my first band. We weren't that great, but we were good enough.
Yeah.
But the kids loved it, and we were asked to come back. And lately, we've played in a few places that I'm not going to say are my favorite, but usually a good time, and I got no complaints. As far as my least favorite, I'm just going to opt out to answer that question because I don't want to throw any bad publicity their way, right? So
no problem. That's completely understandable. I think we all have.
I think we all have a place that we'd rather not go to.
We all have a couple of those for sure. I've pretty much hit every question here, so I'm going to turn the mic over to you now. And if you want to say anything, if you want to plug anything, if you want to talk about anything that we kind of didn't get the chance to talk about on this first episode, and like I said, this is the first episode of the Wonkcast. As we grow in the weeks, we'll have longer episodes, and we'll have different guests per week, and all from your support. So if you're listening, share this with your friends, share it on Facebook, Twitter, any of the social media platforms you have. If you're listening and you're a local musician, or you're somebody involved in the music community or arts community, reach out to us. You can find us on Facebook. Once again, I'm Justin Littlechild, Dale Atchison. You can find us on Facebook, and just reach out to us. We'd love to have as many people on here as we can, and have your kind of input on your own experiences with the musical industry. And it's not only open to local people too. If you used to be from Wetaskiwin and you moved away to start a career or to start a family, or
if you're looking to move to Wetaskiwin,
yes. Yeah. Reach out to us. We'd love to have you here, and we'd love to showcase our community a little bit.
Or even if you have just any questions, you can email them to us, Facebook message them, and we'll read them out here, and we'll try and answer them the best we can. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find somebody that does.
Absolutely, yeah. There's always somebody that knows the answer for sure. So.
All right, so my turn, I guess. Again, we're going to give another shout out to Warren from Warren's Music. He does all my instrument repair and tune-ups and everything. I won't let anybody else touch my guitars.
From James Bond.
Yeah, exactly.
He is, He fixes everything, and you're not allowed to touch anything, but he fixes it for you. But no, he's fantastic, and he builds guitars, and he's one of the best.
And he also supports the Manluck Theater. I mean, all that sound, or most of that sound equipment that's used for the open mics is all his.
Yeah, and he runs the sound and does everything for it.
And he's a pretty good musician himself. So.
Oh yes, very good. Yeah. I was definitely influenced from him, and he gave me a kind of a little pointers and everything when I was starting out, and I bought my guitars from him, of course.
Yeah.
Best place to be in town. So So any closing statements here, Dale, and anything you want to say?
All right. Well, we're going to do a couple questions on you yourself.
Sure.
Just everybody knows, or not everybody, but a lot of people know that Justin's from Wetaskiwin.
Born in L.A., Leduc, Alberta.
Born in L. All right. With that being said, my question is, what was your influence? For you started out in comedy, really? I
started out doing stand-up, yeah. Before that, I was kind of from drama class, and then I was big into like Larry the Cable Guy and everything back then. And I said, God, that seems like the funnest job in the world to do. I'd love to do that. So I'd put together a bunch of jokes. I think I spent my math and social classes writing jokes, and I should have been working. And came up with some.
Been there, yeah.
Yeah, this explains a lot. And so I came up with a bunch of material. And I just kind of went to the teacher, said, I'd love to do a comedy show here. I have no idea what I'm doing. I've never done it, but I'd love to do something. So I said, sure. So we set up in the drama room at lunchtime, and everybody came down, and I think I did about 25 minutes of not stand-up comedy, but shaking comedy. And because I was shaking the whole time, I was doing
understandable,
it and it was the best experience of my life. And I think I was 15 years old at that time. I was in grade 9, which is just unbelievable. And after that, they said, you know what, it was good, but you can never do a show here ever again. And so I started, going further, and I started going up to Edmonton and performing in Yuck Yucks, and which was a lot of work. In those days, to perform at Yuck Yucks, because it was a bar, so I had to get a hold of the AGLC, the Alberta Gaming and Liquor Commission, and I had to get my dad to sign a form. We had to make a special trip up there and go sign a form, and then they had to approve it, and then I could show up for my show. I could be in the venue 5 minutes before my show, and then I had to leave directly after. So I did that for quite a few years until I turned 18, and then played a lot of the other clubs, going on amateur nights, and comedy was probably my biggest influence. And doing comedy, you meet a lot of people. So I had met a lot of musicians and bands and stuff, because I'd open for bands and I'd open for DJs. And so that's how I began to know a lot of these guys. And I said, you know what, maybe I'll try my crack at music one day.
Well, and here's another kind of a segue. You say you've opened up for musicians. Well, lately there's been a little thing here in town called Loonstock.
Yes.
That's Larry Musa, and he's been a big part of bringing in these musical acts.
Shout out to Larry for having me there 5 years in a row. It usually takes about 1 year for people to get sick of me, but the fact that I've been there for 5 years is a big honor.
Well, maybe he just doesn't learn, right? No, I'm just
maybe
kidding,
it's because
Larry.
he sees me once a year. Maybe that's why. And I hope I get to definitely come down for 5 years more. It's a very fun festival.
Yep.
It's done at the Loons Golf Course in August, so it's nice and hot, sometimes rainy. And, great bands. Brings bands from Vegas,
Yeah, there's been some really good bands. I mean, we're talking Bon Jovi, and these are tribute bands. Bon Jovi, Dolly Parton, Tom Petty was, I think, for last year. No, that was the year before.
The year before.
But there's been some really good acts.
And it gets better and better every year. It really does. This year,
but it takes a lot of work.
A lot of work, and Larry he's amazing at what he does.
Yeah.
And
some
been
people
doing it for so long.
Mistakenly think that Larry owns all that sound equipment. No, he pays for all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
that'd be
not
nice.
cheap.
So if he just had it in his garage and set it up whenever he wanted.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
So, as far as comedy goes, and not saying you're name dropping it or anything, you've met a lot of famous people and some famous legends in their own minds. We've all had those.
Yeah.
Were they actual? What's the word I'm looking for? People that wanted to make you get into the business even more, or were there just Just elaborate on that.
Yeah, sometimes, like with comedians, definitely. Meeting a lot of comedians after the show is hanging around there on the weekends when the headliners were in from New York or from LA or whatever. Like I met Chris Rock's brother, Tony Rock, and he performed at a club one time. And Damon Wayans, I got to shake hands with Damon Wayans, and Charlie Murphy, Eddie Murphy's brother, played there too, and Mick Foley from WWE, from wrestling.
Foley,
he does stand-up comedy, so I got to meet him. So meeting a lot of the comics was the coolest thing, especially when you're younger and you watch these guys on TV, and then when you see them in real life, it's just kind of.
Well, didn't you have the chance to meet Russell Peters too? At one
I did. I met Russell Peters.
Yeah.
I think I was one of the only males he let in his DJ booth. So he's also a DJ.
Oh, is
so
he?
he DJs after his shows.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he'll go do stand-up. He'll go do like an hour and a half at these arenas, and then he'll walk across the street or wherever it is to the after party and do a DJ set.
Wow.
So he was DJing, and the bar was packed, and a bunch of people were in there, and he was letting all these really good-looking women in his DJ booth taking pictures with him. And I just kind of made eye contact with him, and he's like, yeah, come up. So I had to, his big bodyguards all let me up, and his big bodyguard was taking a picture of us together, and it was super cool to meet him. And he actually, he started out working in Yuck Yucks in Edmonton and stuff. Back when it used to be in West Ed, he did a lot of the runs out here.
Okay, right. Anything else you'd like to add? I mean, we've got so much to tell. We don't want to take it all up here on one podcast.
We could talk for hours.
Definitely.
But I think just between the two of us, we got so many stories to talk about for hours. But we'll definitely have an episode where I can elaborate on things a little bit more and talk to everybody a little bit more and kind of let them know my story and everything that's been going on. But so this was once again the first episode of the Wonkcast. I just want to thank my co-host again, Dale, who created this and was kind enough to bring me on for starting this up.
So you're mentioning the Wonkcast. That's WONK. Care to elaborate on how that name came about, or do you know, or? Legend has it.
I think it's a folk tale. I actually have no idea, but it was always when I was in school. There was this clothing line called Wonkwear. It was a local clothing line that somebody had started called Wonkwear, and so everyone just kind of called it the Wonk, and nobody really knows why. So I was always calling it the Wonk. Wonk Pride Worldwide, whenever you'd kind of be with your buddies or whatever, you'd always just call it the Wonk. So I was thinking podcast. Oh, how about a Wonkcast?
Yeah, good idea. That's all your idea on that one for sure.
Well,
And Wonk, well, that definitely people were probably from the start of this going, what the hell's a wonk?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know either. So if you
Nobody
actually
from here
know,
knows.
let us know, and then we'll tell the story.
I think it's locked up in a safe in the archives somewhere here. There's an answer somewhere. I have no idea.
Well, let's hope so. Anyway, for sure. So with that being said, we're gonna keep this to a minimum this time, and our next podcast will be roughly around the same. This is roughly 30 minutes, and we are going to do this once a week to start off. If we get rich and famous, it might be a couple times a week, but hey, who knows, right? But a big shout out to all of our supporters. If you want to become a sponsor of the show, we have rates. Just give us a call or email us, and we'll go further from there. So I'd like to say thanks, Justin.
Yes, and thank you, Warren's Music.
Yes, thank you, Warren. He's obviously our first sponsor and probably always will be moving forward. So we'd like to say thank you for taking the time to listen, and we will get back to you next week, and you have yourself a great and wonderful musical art day.
Yes.
Bye for now.